Hi, good evening. This is Peggy Fisher coming back with episode 4 of Family Secrets, written by Peggy Fisher and Ginny Christenson. I realize I've been calling her Romanetti in the last couple clips, but her name is actually Christenson, Virginia Christenson. She goes by Ginny. And just decided tonight I'm going to have a little fun with this, maybe add a little more pizzazz. It's a very, very short episode. It's only 2 pages long. So make yourself comfortable and we will begin. This is episode 4, Flashback, when Helen meets her mentor. And as we recall, Helen is our protagonist and Gabby is her best friend and mentor. It takes place in the White House ladies' room. Once again, it's entitled Flashback, when Helen meets mentor. And you'll find that as a common theme throughout this storyline, that you will go back into time and you will get a little insight as to the character and how they got together or how they met or important influences in their life. It's really where a lot of the character development comes from. Okay? The White House ladies' room. Hugging the seat of the commode as if her life depended on it, Helen knew she only had seconds before the next wave of nausea would overwhelm her slender frame and propel whatever remnants of food that remained in her embattled stomach into the beleaguered bowl. She had been working at the White House for roughly 6 weeks when the first wave came across her body, and immediately she had a sinking feeling. By the time the second wave hit, she was halfway down the long hall to the restroom. She entered the ladies' room, almost knocking over a woman who was exiting. She then burst through the stall door as she erupted like a super volcano and dropped to her knees. And there she knelt for what seemed like hours, throwing up. The interval between bouts provided Helen with some time to consider what was happening to her. She flashed back to the day she had interviewed for the White House position. It had taken so many interviews. It involved a lengthy background check. The day they asked her to come into the White House to tell her she had been awarded the position, she was on cloud 9. After Helen accepted the position and it was agreed that she would start on the following Monday, Helen left the office, bubbling all over with excitement, and started down the long hall, each step lighter and faster than the last, until she bumped into what's-his-name. Not focused on anything but her excited news, basking in the euphoric feeling of success, Helen never saw the senator from the South as she slammed into him. Nothing about the encounter was graceful. The strapping senator from the South stood his ground, but Helen went sliding down the majestic hall on her bottom, legs and arms flailing in the most unladylike fashion. Great fodder for the passing guided tour of young impressionables who broke out in a roar of laughter. The senator from the South was quite the Southern gentleman. Pay attention. He took full responsibility for the tussle and apologized profusely as he assisted Helen in getting to her feet. Since it was the end of the day, he insisted Helen let him take her out to the local watering hole, buy her a drink, and apologize. Having just accepted a job of a lifetime and taking into consideration the senator's deep crystal blue eyes, Helen accepted the invitation. Still clinging to the commode, Helen thought grudgingly about that day not so long ago when she had the fortuitous encounter with the senator of the South. Could this moment be the consequence of that encounter? Before she could finish the thought, Helen felt a presence behind her and a strong but confirming hand on her shoulder. Helen wasn't scared, but she was curious as to who was behind her in the bathroom stall. Helen turned to see a very small but impeccably dressed older woman bending over her. Helen was sure she was pregnant. Her emotions were assaulting her: fear, doubt, angst, regret, but also surprise. Surprise because she was on birth control. How could this be happening now? She had the job of her dreams, was on the road to building a meaningful career, to making a difference. For reasons she couldn't explain, Helen felt comfortable confiding her predicament to the stranger. She told the woman everything. Without judgment and with the kindest eyes Helen had ever seen, the stranger, who introduced herself as Gabby, asked the obvious but so difficult question, "What do you want to do now?" Helen knew that having a child was out of the question. There was no possibility of a future with the father. While she believed the senator might take responsibility, Helen was not willing to take that chance given what little she really knew about him. His cordiality, his thoughtful manner might only be a public facade. As callous as it might seem, Helen did not see herself as mother material, thinking first of her career. Yet, while not a religious person, Helen was spiritual, and the thought of a second abortion was repugnant. If she continued with the pregnancy with the idea of putting the baby up for adoption, being so new on the job, would the White House support her or fire her? When her predicament became known and she had an abortion, would the White House support her? There was ongoing controversy surrounding the topic of abortion rights, particularly in the conservative Senate and the Supreme Court. During her first term, the president had been successful in carrying out a number of interim elections to her side of the aisle, but not nearly enough. The Supremes were relatively young and bearing some sort of scandal. None of them were going anywhere anytime soon. Further, going through a pregnancy alone was not for the faint of heart. Helen knew this from an acquaintance who had done so, but who had close friends to support her. Helen didn't have that circle of friends. Usually a decisive person, Helen had no idea what she would do. Gabby, sensing Helen's indecisiveness, intervened, took Helen's hand, and told her that she would take care of everything. That moment gave rise to the Helen-Gabby lifetime friendship. That's it tonight. Short and sweet, to the point. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back in the future with episode 7. Till then, peace.